Ladies and gentlemen, it's a particular pleasure for me to welcome you this evening to our public lecture with Dr. Roiss on European gas security. I welcome you here in presence and also all our participants online via streaming. Tonight's public lecture is part of the course Current Issues that is open to all our students of our 3 academic programs, namely the Diplom-Lehrgang, the Masters of Science in International Studies, and the Masters of Environmental Technologies and International Affairs. Let me use this opportunity of my introductory remarks to inform those who don't know it yet that we will start a 3rd Master of Science program next year in September 2024 on digital international affairs. Tonight we have chosen a topic which gets generally more attention in the media when the temperature turns colder outside and when the heating season starts again, namely the topic of European gas security. Having worked myself many years on energy security subjects in Brussels and in Vienna, I can tell you that this topic is of relevance for the European countries, for their economy all over the year. Because gas is not only used for the heat, it's used about half for the European households, but also because of the big share of industry which is powered by gas. About 1/4 of all the energy used in the EU is natural gas, and many EU countries import nearly all the energy used in the EU. Some EU countries are also heavily reliant on one single source or transport route for most of their gas. I'm therefore particularly happy to welcome tonight our distinguished speaker, Dr. Gerhard Roiss, former CEO of OMV, one of Austria's largest listed industrial companies and a global energy and chemicals group. Let me say a few words to introduce Dr. Gerhard Roiss. Dr. Roiss studied at the universities of Vienna, Linz, and Stanford in the United States. In 1990, he took over the management of OMV Marketing. In the same year, he was appointed to the board of PCD Polymer GmbH. In 1997, he moved to the board of OMV Group, where he was responsible for the areas of plastics and chemistry. From 2002 to 2011, he was deputy chairman of the board and responsible for refining and marketing. And in 2011, he became CEO of OMV Aktiengesellschaft, which he was till June 2015. Then he became member of board of directors of the Swiss industrial group Sulzer. And from 2017 till 2019, he was also chairman of the supervisory board of Verbund AG. Many of us have seen Dr. Roiss also speaking in TV and in the radio. He has also been advising in the last year the Austrian Minister for Climate Protection, Environment, Energy, Mobility, Innovation, Technology, Mrs. Leonor Gewessler. And in particular, you have been also very active as a startup entrepreneur. So I'm very honored that you, Dr. Roiss, are tonight among us and that you will speak to us. So I invite you now to take the floor. And after your presentation, I will moderate the question from the public. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Schubert. The first time being here in this house. Thank you for the invitation. I'm pleased to give you a short insight in gas, in European gas. And when we talk about gas, what are the issues? Security of supply. This means where do we get the gas from? And how can we transport it? How can we bring the gas into our market? Which means pipelines, which means storage, which means terminals. For LNG, you need a terminal and then bring it into pipes. And then the issue, remember last year what happened? The price went up 10 times. So the price issue was a pricing. This three issue. I would like to start with the question. Do you have an idea how long it will take the gas molecule to come from Russia to Vienna?
Depends on what gas, liquid.
No, it's always in pipe, it's gas. It's gas. What?
80% from
How long it will take the molecule from Urengoy. Urengoy is northern polar circle, and it's about 5,500 kilometers northeast of Vienna. There they produce the gas. It's in wintertime, it's minus 35, 40 degrees. You will not see any sunshine in December, January. About 100,000 people are working, and this is the biggest gas field in the world. Urengoy. This was developed in 1985. That's the source of our gas. I have warm here in the room. So how long it will take? What do you think? A single molecule to come from Urengoy into here, this equipment. Idea? An hour? What? 2 days? 5 days? More? 7 days. There's a speed of about 30 kilometers per hour. It's a molecule. But if you talk, for instance, on Norwegian gas, that's about 2,500 kilometers away from here. Urengoy is about 5,500. This is important to understand because you know the contracts that we have are long-term contracts called take-or-pay contracts. Why is it? We have take-or-pay contracts, 10 years contracts, 15 years contracts. You can imagine what it costs to invest a pipeline from Urengoy into Western area. This is huge investment, and therefore, from the early history in the 60s, they started with such kind of contracts. And the first gas coming into Western was the gas from Russia coming into Baumgarten. Baumgarten is the village where the gas comes into Russia, Slovakia. Into that time there was Comecon, so Austria was western part. And this was in 86, the year when the Russians invaded Czech Republic. And whenever there's a new ambassador from US, they always gave me a phone. Mr. Roiss, could you please show me Baumgarten, which is very famous in US, but I can't find it on the map. Can we see this was the most strategic point in Austria in the European context. Why? Because the gas from there was not only coming into Austria, it was coming via Austria into Germany, into France, it was coming via Austria into Italy, in Slovenia, Hungary, and so on. So this was very, very important strategic issue that we have here in Austria. And when we look back 15 years from now, it's about 100 billion cubic meter came via Austria into Western Europe. What does this mean, 100 billion? You have to know that whole European market is 600 billion cubic meter of gas. 50% is imported, rough figures, yeah? It's about 300 BCM, billion cubic meter. 300 is imported. This is coming on the one hand from Norway, which is not EU, but they call it, and about here 150 BCM coming from Russia. And out of this 150, which is nowadays, formerly was less, about 100 was coming by Austria. And this was this key strategic position that Austria had in the energy world. You see it here coming in and then going into Germany, France, Switzerland, of course, and going down into Italy. So this was key strategic position that Austria has in the world of gas. And this is globally well known. And just give you an idea where What doesn't work? So it works. And when you see, so this was the first pipeline bringing gas into Western Europe, 1968. Then the Russians built a pipeline to bring gas into Poland, which was part of Warsaw Pact. This is the Amal pipeline. And then they started to build this pipeline, the Nord Stream 1 and later Nord Stream 2, which was never working. Again, here to understand the situation, it was key to supply Poland. By the way, they paid the highest price you can imagine. And after 1990, they discovered that they paid such a high price because the European Union was very transparent. What they did, they was the first country in Europe that worked on their gas independency. They started an LNG terminal to invest, started a country, 1990, with Qatar to get more independent from Russian gas. So when you say, on the one way, Austria and other countries get more and more dependent on Russian gas, some other European countries, nobody talks about it now, but I'm here to tell you, they started early days to get less dependent on Russian gas. So you know about what we talk about, 600 BCM, 50% import, and out of this about 50 from Russia, which was in the year 2021, and from that on it went down because the Russians, but they could later on in this discussion that they reduced heavily, as you know, in 2022 and 23. So Europe had at the end 3 pipelines, and when and then there was the year from 1970s, 80s, 90s, a world where gas was a new energy source of energy. Austria was producing gas, but the gas consumption went up. And when we talk about cheap gas from Russia, this is a little bit wrong, because whenever you want to gain market share, you have to go a little bit priced a little bit lower, independent which energy it is. That's what the Russians did. They developed the markets, they got market share. In Europe, on the other hand, you have to know the gas price was always linked to oil price. So when oil is cheap, gas is cheap, of course. When you have cheap gas, please ask what was the oil price at that time, because people like to tell our dependency on Russia depends on this cheap gas, which is wrong, because in the 90s, starting 2000, the world of energy changed. Soviet Union collapsed, and the European Union developed a new gas world depending on supply and demand and not on oil price. This was the gas price liberalization. But, and I was at that time CEO of OMV, and we had long-term contract, still dependent on oil price. At that time, remember, the oil price was above 100. But the gas that you could buy on the stock exchange was much, much cheaper. So the Russian gas at that time was above the price that you had to pay on the stock exchange. People have forgotten, maybe. So we had this long, more than 1 year discussion on price revision with these old contracts, because they never worked, but you cannot get out of a take-or-pay contract. But at that time, the take-or-pay contract I talk about, this was when Austria has a consumption at that time of about 8 BCM. 8 BCM, 1 BCM like was the production in Austria. It's going down. So 7 was imported. So we said, okay, let's have about 5 BCM with a contract take-or-pay, but the rest we take from anywhere else was possible. When we talk about nowadays gas contract till 2040, I come later on to it, this is for 96% for 6 BCM, where the market will go down. So this is then the risk we can discuss later. So at that time, also we had these take-or-pay contracts, clear why. Everybody in Europe had these take-or-pay contracts, 10 to 15 years. but no, nobody till 40. Now this is just Austria. And then there was a change of gas liberalization. At that time, the Russians understood that they have to change their strategy because gas is not Russian gas, gas is gas. And the prices depends on supply and demand. And so the Russians developed their strategy. On the one hand, they said we have to strategically penetrate into Europe. So they started building storages. Wintershall, they had the biggest storage in Germany. Reden was sold to Gazprom. Austria, the biggest storage, Haidach, they had a share of 50%. This was all silent. The Russians wanted to get a stronger position, which is strategically okay. You have to see it without ideology, just strategic-wise. Yeah? Then they penetrated into taking over other shares. They wanted to get in. Then they wanted to build up a pipeline system being no more dependent on Ukraine, because this pipeline via Ukraine, they wanted to get out of Ukraine. This was 10 years ago, yeah? Long before the war. And we had the negotiations, and we had, my target was that I because Austria at my time was dependent 80% on Russian gas, Austria. And my target was to get less dependent. I said it was in TV, you could see it, 14 before the invasion. I made it very clear. 1/3 is coming of Norway. I started to buy into Norway, huge fields, which my successor wanted to sell, but the Norwegian government didn't allow that we sell it. This was 1/3. 1/3 was from Romania, Neptune, the offshore gas field that we have developed, which was not exploited further when I was out. But nowadays, which is positive, this will be developed, and the gas from there, which is about 4 BCM per year, but 2 BCM could come into Austria, which is important. And therefore, I was interested, when you have a gas in Romania offshore, you have to think about a pipeline to bring it to Austria. And there were 2 projects. I failed both projects. The first was Nabucco. Nabucco was a project that you see here, to bring in gas from Azerbaijan. What I talk is about 2010. Yeah? To bring in gas from Azerbaijan, later on Turkmenistan, into Vienna, and further on into Germany and so on, and Italy. The Americans didn't support me. They were neutral. And nowadays, Blinken sent me a message that it was a mistake. Where the former American ambassador, Milicho. Why didn't they support it? Do you have an idea? Diplomats, ongoing diplomats, why did they support it? No. Because of Iran. Because when you see it historically, if you go in Azerbaijan, easily can go via Turkey into Iran, and then they have a lot of gas, and then you strengthen Iran and you could bring it. This was the threat. On the other hand, Germany was supporting it, and the European Union, Oettinger, as long as RWE, the German company, was on board. Later on, they changed the strategy and thinking about Nord Stream 1 and 2, because it's more important to have Russian gas direct into Germany and not via Austria. And this would then weakening Austria's position from that. And the third issue was that the Russians, they openly said it, Gazprom, this will never occur, this pipeline will never be built. And they had a strong pressure on Azerbaijan, of course. I talked several times with Aliyev, and Aliyev said, I tried to come into the middle, because if you're in Austria, then you're in Europe. Yeah? And the compromise at the end, you will not officially hear it, but the compromise was that the Azeri gas comes into via TAP. You see it, and it goes via Greece into southern Italy. This is TAP. It's working. It's bringing about 30 BCM into Greece and southern Italy. So this was then the answer of Nabucco. Then the Russians told me, okay, we want to have gas also from the northwest, also from the east. And this was then called South Stream. I was negotiating with them. I signed the contract. And when we signed the contract, Mr. Miller, CEO, was here. Putin was coming in, you know, when Fischer invited him in 2014. And I had the contract saying European law. European law means that 50% of your pipeline capacity you have to give to third parties. So you cannot control the market. Just clear. That's European law. And therefore, the contract was European law. And then an hour before we had the signing ceremony in Brussels, they came to me and said, oh, in the press release, you're writing European law. Please, give order from Russia, take this out. Hey, it's in the contract. It's not secret, as I can tell you. I am not prepared to take it out. So the people, CNN, everybody was waiting outside and to see the signing. They said to Mr. Miller, sorry, I'm not prepared to do it. Yeah. You don't get friends if you have such opinions. But it doesn't depend who it is, and that's not issue of Russia or not issue. I think we have to work for independence. Yeah? And it was starting 1 o'clock signing. It was 1:15. I said, I go out and say, we have failed. It doesn't matter. Yeah? And Putin was on the way already, come having a lunch with fish, and we were invited there. So we went out. I took my paper, he had his paper, without, and I said, here I'm signing European law. And he had to do it. But he was quite a So we had then signed it, but super success, but one day later it was dead. Yeah? So they never really built it. And they just built the pipeline, and that's not strategic. So South Stream was not built. I was supporting it because of bringing our gas from Romania, the second 50% into Austria. That was the reason why I wanted to have it. Yeah? And what happened then? Then they said, okay, we have some good old friends in Europe, which means Serbia, Hungary, so we have to secure gas supply if your Ukraine pipeline is not working anymore. So then they built this pipeline via Turkey, via Bulgaria into Serbia and Hungary. Turkish Stream is the name of this pipeline. This was built then in the 15 to 20 this time. So strategic-wise, to see the Balkan, they have their clear position with the gas. And if you see 2 years ago, even Hungary increased their volume wherever Europe is going down, with Russian gas supply. Mr. Orban signed, I think a year ago, a new contract increasing the gas volume for Hungary, where this pipeline they have prepared with a special price, of course. So this is just the geopolitical situation, how to bring the gas into Europe. So the Russians tried to buy in. The Russians had a strong lobbying. I never could understand the Austrian government was supporting Nord Stream 2. I was asked to support it, to invest. I denied, as long as I was in OMV. Later on, they invested 1 billion in Nord Stream 2. The Austrian government was supporting it. Even when the Ukraine invasion took place in Austria, explained we support Nord Stream 2. And this was always against Baumgarten and our strategic position. And you never, when you see the landscape, I think it's it's a long time to come from northern Germany into Vienna instead of using the old route into Baumgarten. So never understood this situation, but I call it marketing and strong lobbying. Well done, not only in Austria, in all the European countries. They had a strong lobbying, which is part of marketing, to say it like this. And then they did this forward integration, and then they did this pipeline logistic situation where Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 to be on the safe side and not to be dependent on Ukraine. Because it's always clear, they call it Ukraine pipeline, is very old, it will not last so long, so we have to build Nord Stream 1 and 2. That's the reason. Understand it. So, this was till 1920, not the situation. I remember whenever it got cold nowadays, October, November, I got a phone call at that time, my time, from Mr. Mitterlehner, who's the Minister of Energy, and he asked me, Gerhard, what's about the storage? Are they full? Or what's about? Because Austria is in a situation that they have a volume of 8 BCM, that's what about Austria needs. But if we're very careful, even on pipeline capacity, this gas that is in Austrian storages does not only belong to Austrian companies for Austria, it belongs to companies from Italy, Slovakia, Slovenia, whatever. And you have to know what gas do we have in terms of a crisis. And at that time it was not transparent. And I always sit up and said, please, tell the people what is for Austria, because you have to find something to secure Austrian supply. It's our responsibility as government. And when you have a company like OMV, where the government has a share in of more than 30%, then you have, of course, a responsibility for the country. That was my saying. So what could one see already? So I wanted to get independent from Russian gas. It was part of my strategy. I explained it to public, which was not the ideal world for the Russian supplier, which I can understand. But I think as an Austrian, for long-term supply, you have to diversify the supply route. The one is Romania, the other one was Norway and Austria, and they said 25% from Russia. This is my target. Also, of course, against Gazprom, it's very clear. But suddenly, when I was out, my successor, where we learned that the Americans warned Austrian government that there's a strong Russian link. He stated very openly, and not silent, that he wants to increase this relationship with Gazprom. This is key. And therefore, to increase the market share. Therefore, he started to sell down Norway. The gas, you can imagine what would happen now if we have no gas from Norway, which is nowadays about 3 to 4 BCM that we could get now with our own and our contract with Norway. It's more than 50%. Yeah. And the link to Gazprom was a quite strong one, and then you also know this contract till 2040, take-or-pay contract with high volumes till 2040, 6 BCM 2040. I have no idea who would in Austria need 6 BCM, because nowadays we have, instead of 8, we have about 7, maybe 7.2. And if you're here nowadays, that in the law is coming that when you build a house that you're not allowed to install a new gas heating. Be sure also industry starting to change energy supply source. Therefore, I'm sure we will not have 6 BCM. And but the contract is till 2040, and this is a big issue that one will face, not today's government, maybe not next government, but then it will come, yeah? Because I think we need gas. So, very brief, then we have more time for discussion. What happened, where are we now? You know that we have discovered, before the war started in Ukraine, that the gas storage were empty, the Russian gas storage were empty. The one in Reden in Germany, the one in Heidach was really empty. Everybody has seen it, but there was no reaction. OMV storage was, I think, 60% full in October. This is all when you see, are we ready for winter? Because in winter you have the key gas consumption because of heating is gas, and these are about 900,000 households in Austria that heat with gas. So then, what was the reaction? The Russian supply, Nord Stream, you know, was, first of all, they started, the Russians, to take out Yamal, because they say Poland is against us, so they shut it down to zero, but Poland said, okay, we have already our terminal, we are not so more bandit. Then we have also built Baltic Pipe, bringing gas from Norway. But they started to create their independence in the 90s. Not now, yeah? Then Russian were supplying, so this was, as you know, what happened to Nord Stream. Oh, Jesus. Nord Stream, what happened? This is empty nowadays. And then you only have the via Ukraine. And in the year winter 22-23, there was only coming about 30% of what was ordered. So when you have a situation, they have a stock exchange, demand, supply, balance, then the price went up heavily, 10 times. The price was about 25, 30, and it went up to 300, 350. And that time OMV clearly stated we are a public listed company and our orientation is profit. And if you sell the gas in Germany, the Norwegian gas, you get a higher price in Austria and so on. And so I went to public and made up very clear my opinion, which I think you have to do. And then there was a reaction in the public. First of all, they started to build up a state reserve of 1 BCM, 1 to 2 BCM, at a price of, that time was 200, now it's 50, it was 30. 200, which is now up to 50. Can you imagine that you lose a few billions in a year? But this is still okay because the government has to take care of the people. But you see the risk that is involved. That's the reason I mentioned it. Yeah? And nowadays, we just discussed to increase the state reserve, but to be paid not by government, to be paid by importers. We managed to have sufficient supply because the demand went down and we could manage the last winter of the crisis. Where are we now? And European Union started to buy gas. And you have to know if we have here a price of 100, let's say just index 100 in Austria, China or Europe, China will pay the price less than 50%. When the Russians say, okay, Europe, don't care, we bring our gas into China, that's a nice story, but you have to know they need a pipeline. And the pipeline capacity I mentioned before to Europe was about 150 BCM. The one to China is 20. So you cannot increase it. Now they build the second one, maybe they go up to 40, but this what you lose in Europe, you cannot replace. And when we talk about gas, you have to know that in Europe, 3/4 of gas is pipe gas. This means coming out and going into pipes and then transported. 1/4 is LNG, liquid gas. This is also pipe gas being liquefied in US or Qatar, coming into Europe to a terminal, again gasified and bringing to our market. So, which is energy-wise worse, of course. So nowadays, Mr. Boltz and myself, we were asked to present some ideas, and the ideas we presented in May were in a way that we say, on the one hand, you have to secure that the Norwegian gas from OMV, state-owned company, but it has to be brought into Austria if needed. So you can say, yes, fine, but they need a pipeline capacity through Germany into Austria. This pipeline capacity, there's an auction once a year, and you have to get the capacity. If you can't get it, you have your gas, but you can bring it here. So at that time, the minister, Dr. Gewessler, they said, okay, we do it, we take the risk. And at that time, OMV, with the guarantee of the minister, they couldn't get the amount they wanted, but they could get about 3 billion. So this is still a risk, and we come back to it later on. So on the one hand, have the gas, on the other hand, to bring it here. The other issue was saying you also have to buy further LNG to bring it into Gate Terminal in Rotterdam, which OMV has a share in. We bought it 10 years ago, this share, so we could bring in the LNG from wherever. You can also get Russian LNG. But in the crisis, the LNG that we needed for Europe, 80% of this additional LNG was coming out of US. Or I was thinking about Qatar and so on, but it was mainly coming out of US and some other countries. And you also have seen the south. You see here the pipeline coming Algeria, south, there are pipelines going in Italy, going into Spain. LNG capacity terminals, there are a lot of them in Spain. There was none in Germany, but it took them 6 years' time not to build a terminal, 6 years. Then in 6 months, they had to decide and to finalize this terminal. So everything is possible if you have to do it. So on the one hand, nowadays, we have sufficient gas in the world, even for Europe. Why? And even at a good price. Because world economy is not where it should be. Chinese economy is still not running 8-9%. They go up. They were at 3, now to 5%, whatever. This is China, but the whole other Asia, big importer of gas from Qatar, need the capacities they have planned to. So there's more gas capacity available for Europe. On the other hand, Qatar will bring in new gas resources in 2025. And same as in US, they will have new thermal capacity in US, 25 coming in. And even nowadays, we have sufficient gas in terms of LNG. This means you need the pipelines on the one hand from Italy, where the gas in former times went from Austria to Italy. And nowadays, it can reverse flow from Italy, where you have the terminals to bring it into Austria and Slovenia. Same is now on WAC, the pipeline that is going into Germany. There's a gas from Baumgarten bringing to Germany. But nowadays, the gas from German terminals and from Rotterdam terminals, they flow into east, into Austria. But this means you have to increase capacity, because this pipeline is called WAC. And there's a part of about 70 kilometers that has to be debottlenecked. That we can get in terms of Russia's stop supply, which could have many times, you never know. That you can bring sufficient LNG in terms of pipe gas into Austria. This cost about 200 million. And if you read nowadays in Newsbc, the company who is responsible for building it, Gas Connect Austria, say, yeah, this can be built in 2-3 years. Then the real time to build it, another 18 months, so we'll be on stream 27, 28. But you know, even Austria has declared that in 27 there will be no more Russian gas. But if you don't have, and then you get an answer, oh, this pipeline has sufficient capacity for Austria. That's right. But they ignore that this pipeline is also bringing gas into Slovenia, into Hungary. And whoever is booking the quantities first gets it. So there's no Austrian right to say this belongs to me. Yeah? Stupid. And that's what I'm coming out 2 weeks now, saying this has to be speeded up. And this is not, because it's not unbelievable. This is stupid and negligent. Anyhow, so this is nowadays when we look into 24, where Ukraine, the minister explained to me that this contract transporting Russian gas into Europe will end 24, and they're not prepared to have a new contract. But then you hear, oh, this could be whatever, blah, blah. So I think Austria has to be prepared to be independent from Russian gas in 2024, like the Italians, at least to prepare to be independent. If you still get Russian gas, it's another issue. But to take out the price risk, and the risk is price risk. And you see nowadays, the gas price was about 30. Now you have the crisis in Israel and so on, or this Baltic stream. You have seen this Baltic stream between Estland and Finland has blown up. Didn't matter. Why? In Finland? Because Finland always said, historically, we don't want to be dependent on Russian gas. So every heating, in every household, you have to have a second heating if you don't get gas. Industry, they all have been very independent, but historically, Austria always was ignoring it. Yeah? So because I was asking what's happened with Finland if you blow up this pipeline, bringing into Norwegian gas into Finland, I said, yes, it's okay, but we are prepared. not the best. But again, the price went up from 30 to 50. And the issue is, when we look into the future, is not to get the gas, because I think it can be managed to debottleneck this pipeline WAC in the Mühlviertel. But the issue is when you have just little 5-10% less supply here in Middle Europe, then the stock exchange price will go up, and Czech and the Austrian consumers industry will pay for it. And that's a duty for our government to prepare everything that this is not happening. OMV, meanwhile, have started the development of this Romanian gas field, producing 4 BCM a year. 2 BCM could come into Europe, into Austria. We have this Norwegian gas. So OMV is always saying we have sufficient gas for our customers. What they're not saying, their customers are only 40% of the market maximum, because you have no monopoly. It's not possible. So be very careful, same like storages. But if this issue on the pipe, and if the winter this year is not very strong, and if we have still some Russian supply, what's nowadays, so we'll have a warm winter in our houses and industry. But in the year 24-25, when Ukraine is changing, you have to prepare. And if you prepare, which is possible, we'll have a situation where we are independent from Russian gas if you want to be. That's about an overview from 1968. Happy to be supplied from Russia, cheap Russian gas, to nowadays it's a different gas market. Hope it's interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Roiss, for this fantastic lecture that you gave us, historical lecture, but also, let's say, expert lecture about European gas security and the strategic place that Austria plays, of course, also in Europe. And before I give the floor to, I suppose, many questions, I'd like just to break the ice and look maybe a bit ahead in the future, because if we diversify and we will get gas from many countries coming now from abroad via LNG. We will need to build new LNG terminals. We have already many LNG vessels going around the world. I looked up in April, we had 668 active LNG vessels. My question is, and as we have also students of our master program, Environmental Technology and International Affairs, is this the solution, and what is the impact, the environmental impact of all these many LNG transports? Please.
First of all, the number of vessels transporting LNG is not the bottleneck. The bottleneck is the terminals. Germany will open 2 new terminals in a couple of months. I think Greifswald is already opened the second one. The mother countries will also opening new terminals. One is Krieg to expand existing terminals. Italy will build a new terminal because the world the share of LNG is growing. Environmental issue, I think LNG is worse than pipe gas because you have to liquefy it and then again to gasify it. It costs you energy. It's also more expensive. On the other hand, LNG is a global product like oil. Pipe gas is not a global product, but LNG, price-wise, is a global product, and the vessels will go where the price is highest or where they have take-or-pay contracts. And they also need take-or-pay contracts for liquefied gas.
Thank you very much. Well, now I would like to give you the opportunity to our participants to ask questions. Please don't hesitate. Yes, I have here already. And maybe you can say your name and also if you are a participant from abroad or in that case your institution, or if you are a student from which academic program you are. Thank you. Please, here.
Yeah. My name is Günther Fellinger. I'm from the NATO Volksbegehren for the Austrian NATO membership and also calling for the boycott of Russian energy. My question concretely is about the 2018 contract which Austria, OMV, has concluded with Russia, with Gazprom. What is the motivation to do such a 22-year-long contract? Do you suspect there was some kind of corruption, kickbacking, and what was the reason for having such a long-term specific take-or-pay contract concluded by OMV and Gazprom? Thanks a lot.
I would like to answer it, but the question is I am the wrong one to answer this question because I would have never done it. And I think this contract was signed 10 years before the existing contract was running out. Yeah. So one can question, I understand your questions. I do not understand why this was done. I do not understand why the board members, the supervisory board, you have supervisory board to control the company, why the supervisory board was not intervening. They said they didn't sign it, but you know, if I do a contract worth maybe 100 billion because it's lasting so long, yeah, or 50 billion, that I think you have to share the risk with your board. And in such a case, also with the government, I think. I'm wondering, I cannot say more, yeah? I'm not part of this, special group. But everybody understands, please understand, I don't want to comment it. It's not my world. I'm Austrian. My job is to help to supply Austria and to get out of this risk. That's what I'm doing. I'm not asked. And I'm just wondering, yeah. I don't want to talk more because it's quite dangerous. Yeah?
Thank you very much. Another question? Yes, please, there in the back.
Luka Boteri, I'm from Croatia and I'm at the DLG program. I just have a question. Do you think that after the war in Ukraine ends, that I mostly mean Germany will turn back to the Nord Stream 2 and 1? And will they resume their pre-war capacities of gas from Russia?
I think that if you understand, you know, the German policy, Ms. Merkel, they always believed in this integration of Russia into Europe, and which I think is a good thing if it works. But if you have on the other part someone who wants to, again, to build out of Russia, Soviet Union, then this doesn't work. And Russia always was a supplier that you could rely on. On the other hand, I have to tell you that some years ago already, the Russians checked for this if you shut the pipeline, and they did it for a few days. But the problem at that time was then to open it again because it's not the issue. This 5,000 kilometers with a pressure of 100 bar to install again. So I think it's sad that Europe is split into two parts, which is now a reality. And I don't think that Germany or other European countries go back to this dependency on Russian gas. If you import Russian gas with 10%, as I say, 25 doesn't matter, but that's a different thing to import gas than to be dependent. And if you have a share of 80% on energy, you have to be very stupid. You have to be very stupid to see it and to rely on it and think that's good. And that's the reason you always hear, oh, this gas was very cheap, you know. That's the reason we had it. But don't ask a second question. They should tell you how cheap and why.
Thank you very much.
Hello, thanks for the interesting lecture. My name is Gerhard Roiss from DLG, same program. And I would have two questions. The first one would be, like, we are talking a lot about EU and that we need to diversify our supply side, but my question would be, like, why did Russia not diversify its demand side? Like, because now it would be very interesting for them to have a bigger pipeline, as you said, towards China, India, and so on. So they would have more flexibility to cut gas from Europe? That would be my first question. Not sure whether you can answer it since it's Russian politics in the end. And the second one would be more an open question. What I'm thinking a lot in the last months, let's say, if we, for example, as the gentleman before said, if Europe or Austria joins the NATO and we cut all gas supply, and we are not intertwined anymore with our economy with Russia, like that's why it's an open question. Is like, what would happen if we don't have economical ties anymore with Russia, and then we think that further, like 20 years, we are NATO bloc, they are Russia, and there's no interdependence anymore. So that would be the second open question.
The first question, where Russia didn't diversify the supply, I think it's very clear. If Chinese is paying you 50% of what Europeans are paying to you, you would increase your volume into Europe where you get a higher price. And what European learns out of Chinese situation in the crisis, that they started as EU, as European Union, to buy gas from Qatar, from US, whatever. This is the first situation where we started to buy gas, and then you distribute it to the countries that join the process to buy into gas, LNG. So this is coming out of this situation. And nowadays, if you talk on price, and Russia acted very strategically. They had McKinsey as advisors. They've been very, very strategically, including their lobbying, bring the right people into their position. Is it Mr. Schröder or some others? You know all the names. I call it lobbying, part of marketing. But they did not do, and they're suffering now, their share of going into LNG is too low. They just have a few LNG terminals, but Gazprom and what they know it should have done more LNG, because if you have LNG, it's like oil. Then you can put it on the vessel and you can sell it in China, you can sell it in India, wherever you want. So nowadays situation on oil is not affecting them so much. The gas pipeline is affecting them, the pipe gas. LNG would not affect them. But as they just have a share of, I think, 10% of LNG, that's too low. So this was a strategic mistake you see nowadays, yeah? If you talk about strategy now. And so that's the issue on price. And the other one, if I don't know if I understand it right, long term, I think we can reduce the trade flow from country to country, but I think we are so much dependent on raw materials from Russia. Is it cesium? Is it others? So at the end, they will also from China, raw materials for the battery, for e-mobility and so on. I think, and that's positive. You still should have sufficient links for trade and trade contact. So I think it's positive, but what I say, never go to dependencies like you had with gas.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Bujak in the front there is also a question.
Hello. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Roiss. My name is Veronica. I'm from the DLG program. And I have a question. How seriously do you evaluate the statement of Qatari leader who is threatening now to suspend the supplies of gas to Europe?
Mr. Al-Thani, the ruler of Qatar. Yeah, I think Qatar they have now the biggest gas field in the world, and they have contracts. They have a contract with Germany. There's also a contract that we have with OMV long time ago. So, and you can get the gas if you have, if you pay the price. It's just an issue of pricing, not of getting the gas. I don't believe in it because this will not happen in reality. They can reduce. On the other hand, the gas is not only in the hand of the Qataris. If this is an international oil and gas company that is the owner of the gas, they can sell the vessel everywhere in the world. So it will not work. Like the same is on sanction on Russian gas now. This price limit. If you're on the ship, you can go everywhere. So this is not work. Maybe they just think about if they own the vessels, the Qataris, they can decide where to go. I don't believe in the rest. Because, you should know in Qatar, the biggest US base, military base. Do you know where it is in the Middle East? It's in Qatar. Do you know the size of Qatar? Have you seen it? Doha and surrounding? It's quite a small island. And I was negotiating with Altani, with his father. He was here in Vienna. And I think they will not play this card seriously. That's dangerous. I was not aware that when did he explain it? It was Altani himself, the ruler? Quite surprising. I think the Americans will tell him what to do, maybe.
Thank you very much. We have another question here in the front.
Thank you so much for the lecture. My name is Hussein. I'm from DLG. Question is, how realistic can Austria convince the providers to let go of the Russian gas to be sent to Austria? So can take it into consideration that OMV is just 31% owned by the Austrian government, while the rest is, for example, Abu Dhabi. So how can you convince them to let go of that market share and just, stop doing it?
First of all, you have to know that you can always hide in saying this is a public listed company. We have to sell, we have to optimize the profits. But you should also know if there's a national interest, you have to fulfill the national interest, even if you are the CEO of a stock listed company. And I believe gas is of national interest. So this is also law. It's not discussed in the public, but that's an issue. But nowadays, I think OMV has changed their position. They are supportive. They brought in capacity for the pipeline. They brought in new gas volume traded from Norway recently. They're starting now developing this Romanian gas field. So I think OMV has changed heavily last 12 months, is now in a very supportive way in supply Austrian gas if we need it. But they have, of course, much more gas than we need in Austria because they have the Russian gas supply, then they have the Norwegian. So as long as Europe needs more gas, you can sell it. But they have pipe gas, which is at the end cheaper than LNG. So if you have heard from Qatar and so on, so it's very important to have your own pipe gas wherever we have sufficient in Europe. And this is strategically important for Austria. And they are supportive now.
May I ask a follow-up question maybe to this one linked? You have suggested a few months ago that the gas business of OMV should be given to the state holding ÖBAG now. What you have said that OMV has changed the strategy, will this not be necessary then anymore to do this transfer, or how is this situation now? Thank you.
It depends on which world you are. If you are in a world of oversupply, then it's easy to manage it, yeah? But as soon as you come to a world of undersupplied situation, if this Qatari situation is happening, or if Ukraine is stopping tomorrow, then you have to need one who is managing, who is taking the risk. And the risk are billions of euros suddenly. And no private will take this risk. That's the issue I said. And you have to know the market. This is a deep knowledge market to understand it, of high risk. And that's the reason I say take out for 2 years these 200 people, take it into governmental, whatever you call it, Dreihandschaft or whatever, yeah? Or just part-time, to have them to manage it and that the government can take the risk to buy pipeline capacity. Because if you buy a capacity, but then it's not needed because you get Russian gas and you pay 200 million, this was the contract, empty. Or for instance, if you buy terminal capacity and you don't need it because you get Russian gas, you have to pay for it. And there we talk of hundreds of millions. And if you take, or if you buy strategic storage and so on, if you rent storage facilities, that costs you a lot of money. And on the one hand, a private or public listed company is optimizing their profits. Yeah? And they cannot manage security of supply in an undersupplied market. And if this is happening, you need a government that is managing security of supply. And security of supply means rent pipelines, mean have options to get the Norwegian gas into Austria, with the one who is having it, and so on. So this is why I said, do it. The reason they didn't do it, if you believe you will have an oversupplied situation, then might be we don't need it. But you know, a government that has take care for its people shouldn't go in this risky position. They had luck. But I think a government has to be prepared if you have an undersupplied situation, how to manage it. And that's the reason I'm so demanding. Because the government said, if you take this state on, then it's part of OPAC or whatever, yeah? And then Minister of Finance. And then whoever is running this business, he is taking heavily risk. So should I do it or not? Would you do it? Understand that they hesitate doing it. But if you ask me what is needed, I still would say it is needed. If you take this pipeline issue, the bottleneck, this WAC pipeline I mentioned, costing 200 million. There's no decision, there's no planning, but you can build it in 12 months. It's not done, it's reality. If you would have this company, they have no risk, they do it. But this will not come.
Thank you very much. In the front, yes, one question, please.
Wolfgang Elba, I'm a corporate advisor in Austria. My question is, what is the position of the other shareholders in this trade-off between strategic interest of Austria and optimizing commercial aspects in the company?
I think capital market nowadays understand this situation. If you would ask your question in a world where there's no crisis, there would be a clear answer. It's a majority issue, and if you damage the profitability of the company, you cannot do it. But in such a situation, I think even the second key shareholder is Abu Dhabi, and they understand it. And that's, you see out of the reaction of OMV nowadays. So I think it's well understood, because the other option is then to get sanctions. I was with Sulzer and they got sanctions. I know what this means. Or like what happened in Germany, the state took them over. You know, they all went bankrupt. All these three key importers of Russian gas in Germany, they went bankrupt. The government took them over. There are not so many options. At the end of the day, you have to understand that 900,000 households in the industry is dependent. So do whatever you can.
Thank you very much. Do I see another question? Yes, here in the front, please.
Hi, I'm Julia. I'm studying environmental technology. Hi, can you hear me? And my question is about the energy transition. So the plan of the government was to phase out gas use in households. What does this mean in your view? How realistic is it actually? Because now we're already seeing plans actually being delayed of the gas effector, for instance. But there was some more budget given now in the recent government budget. I'm curious to hear your views on what this means and how realistic you think it will be.
I think it's not an Austrian issue, it's a European issue, or let's be a global issue, but let's address it as a European issue. And if you see the studies of IEA in Paris, International Energy Agency in Paris, they said big oil and big gas will be till 2030. This means in the next couple of years, the consumption of gas will peak. You still, when you say in new houses, you're not allowed, and so on. Germany, same situation. It takes time to phase out. So I think is it 28, 29, whatever, gas consumption will go down. Renewables will come up. The good thing is that when you think about the gas logistics, this huge pipeline network, you also can use it for hydrogen to do some investments, but they can use it. And you see the landscape here. You see hydrogen. Austria, if we change into a hydrogen world, you have to import about 60% of hydrogen you have to import. So where can you import it? From countries where they have a lot of sun or wind. Takes these North African countries. You see their pipelines already going up into Europe. You can then produce the hydrogen in Southern Africa, for instance, quite cheap, and bring into this pipeline into Europe, and then again reverse flow from Italy via the pipeline to Austria and so on. Same as then if you bring wind from Norway, the energy into it. So at the end, as if they have some synergies, and you need these synergies if you talk about changing from gas to hydrogen. I think it will take, we talk here about 20 years and so on. That's not short term to build up a new world. But if you see this Russian gas contract with Gazprom to 2040, then I think there might be an issue. But everybody wants to avoid it, to discuss it now, because the issue will come up. Maybe it's maybe there are two more governments.
Time will tell us. Time will tell us. We're coming closely to the end, but I still see one question. If there are others, please make a sign. Yes.
The question about the explosion of Nord Stream 2 and about the Finnish pipeline. Do you think it's part of the Russian energy war? Or do you have other theories which are speculating in the Austrian media? A lot of people are accused, of course, Russia having blown up these two pipelines. And if that's the case, what do you think is the third possibility that Russia can strike one of the pipelines to harden the winter for the Europeans now in the next coming months during the escalation of the Ukraine war?
I think you have to decide. On the one hand, you have this deep sea pipeline, which are gone, and I have no idea who it was, whatever. I don't want to speculate on this issue. But this is deep sea, and if you want to repair it, it takes you 1 or 2 years. So it will not happen anyhow. The other issue is then on Ukraine. This pipeline, if they explode it, it takes you maybe a week or 2 weeks to renew it. And this is not just one pipe. These are many pipes, as you see it here. So the issue is not so more that it will explode. On the other hand, the Russians, there are billions that they get still from the gas they transport, and Ukraine is getting a few hundred millions. Yeah? So the Ukraine stick to the contract with European Union and countries, what they explained, and they still do. What will happen after 24, I don't know. But in terms of explosion, it can always happen, but you never know. But you can repair it in maybe 1 or 2 weeks. So this doesn't really affect supply like it did on the deep sea. Yeah? That's the reason, maybe the reason they didn't do it so far. Or the income they have out of it, I don't know. But Ukraine, what they explained is, we take care for it because everybody knows what happens. Will not be. But he said, on the other hand, he said to me, the minister, please understand, we don't want to invest into our people's blood.
Thank you. Second round.
Gerhard Roiss again. Maybe we stick with Nord Stream 1 and 2. It would be interesting from your point of view, whoever blew it up, but who profits from it? And for Russia, if you say you excuse Russia, why not just closing it and saying we are on a strong point, we just close it? But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't accuse anybody either, but who profits from such things? Was it Europe? Was it Russia? Was it nobody? Because that's normally also how to find out who it was a little bit, at least to get a clue.
Also, I don't want to speculate who it was, but the impact of this was, and just to shut it doesn't work because you get a lot of pressure to reopen it. But what was the impact? The huge impact was the price. It increased the price heavily, and then you can always measure if you get 10 times price of less volume, 10 times price, then of higher volume and just 2 times price. You can see what is the optimum. And there could be some speculation around this. But at the end, it forced Europe to get more and more and faster independent from Russian gas. And what has shown that Europe was able to do it, supported by a mild winter, supported by some other issues, by weak economy in China, India, and getting then cheaper LNG and available LNG to Europe, which was not the case before. So we had good luck.
Sorry, I think it works without microphone, but no, live stream. Sorry. Just because you talked a lot about contracts and so on as well, I think it's very important, maybe underestimated in our realm of international relations sometimes, like economical contracts. So if they would have just shut it, that would have been an issue with the contract, no? I assume. If Russia just shuts Nord Stream 1 and 2, they have running contracts. They can't.
Yes, you're right, because if you explode, you don't know who was it at the end, then you are not able to supply. That's right. So it will be interesting if 24 Ukraine will not transport any more Russian gas. What is then the impact of the existing contracts? I also was wondering when EU discussed to sanction gas. You know, Austria was against it. That's the reason. Austria and Hungary, I think, three countries were against it. And I was wondering, because on the one hand, you can manage gas supply from other sources, but you could have bring the problem of this contract in 2040 to Belgium, to Brussels, because then it would be a European issue. So it's an Austrian issue. But that's Austrian politics. I'm not involved.
I think we come to the end of our public lecture with a rather positive note that you said that Europe managed it quite well under, of course, exceptional situation and pressure. But I think European gas supply is assured, as you said. It's a question of price. But we saw that when we are challenged, we Europeans, we get together, we act, and we can, at least we try our best to increase our storages and to also ensure for our citizens the supply of the energy. And I think diversification, of course, is essential. Like always in every economy, you have to, ensure that you are not dependent too much of one supplier. So all your expertise, Dr. Roiss, was fantastic to hear you, that you shared your thoughts and all your knowledge with us, with all the students here and with all the other participants. Maybe just a personal remark. If you want to know a bit about internal things of OMV after your time, there's a nice theater piece now in the Volkstheater by investigation journalists called, the piece is called Die Redaktion. It's quite entertaining and very well done. So I would like to close this public session now once again. Thank you for this geopolitical lecture you gave us. The link between energy and politics was really quite clear to all of us how important energy is. And I wish you all the best in your actual fantastic work as a startup entrepreneur as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.